speed. It's dangerous, exhilarating, intoxicating, and illegal beyond clearly set limits that are posted on every major highway in the world, except one. It's midnight at a gas station just off the German Autobahn in southern Bavaria. We are about to live out every armchair speedster's fantasy, to push the needle on the speedometer as far as it will go. In this car, the needle's going to go pretty far.
This car you see here was a car from Great Britain, and the customer brings it to us as a stock 996 turbo with 420 horsepower, and we converted this car to 520 horsepower.
Hans Lieb is a test driver for RUF Automotive, a boutique car company that converts high-end Porsches into the fastest street-legal cars in the world. Everything about these cars, from the low-friction tires to the super-sensitive suspension to the massive engine, has been designed for Autobahn joyrides.
The RUF car is definitely designed for the Autobahn because the RUF car is so fast that it can only be driven such speeds on the Autobahn. You cannot do that on a normal two-lane highway.
Hans has to certify exactly how fast this $200,000 Porsche can go before sending it to its owner in London. The Autobahn is the ideal place and the only major highway in the world where he can legally make this kind of test run.
The Autobahn for us is a good road to test at all our cars. We have mostly no speed limit, and also it's in a really good condition, so it's really safe to test cars in this way by night. First you learn slowly to walk, and then you learn faster to walk. And so it's the same impression you had with speed. Of course it's fun to go really fast with cars. But at the end you must be always really careful, and your eyes must be watching all around, so also by side and also in front a little bit.
At this speed, even the super smooth surface of the Autobahn, specially maintained to accommodate really fast drivers, feels rough and pitted. And the slow and gentle Autobahn curves, designed to allow drivers to reach and hold extreme speeds, strain the Porsche.
The hardest part at that speed is if you see cars in front of you and you are not really sure how they react. Sometimes they are sleeping and they turning to the middle line. So you must be really sure that the line is clear and that is not a car who can make something wrong in front of you. You must be really concentrated at that speed, because the car runs over 200 or 300 meters per second.
This 520 horsepower Porsche tops out at 7,200 RPMs and 212 miles per hour. That's with a camera crew of 2 squeezed into the side and rear bucket seats. Welcome to the Autobahn, the only freeway in the world where 212, a speed that police helicopters can't match, is perfectly legal. This is the ultimate driver's fantasy land, not just for professionals, but for anyone with a license. A kind of bizarro world where all the basics are in reverse. It's actually illegal to drive too slow. But there are no limits at all for thousands of miles of Autobahn on how fast you can go. Hard as it is to get used to, it's actually okay to pass a cop here, at speeds that would land you in prison in the U.S.
There is that initial hesitation the first time you see the Autobahn police. And I remember talking to my friends and saying, you know, well, we can't get a ticket, can we? And then just simply passing, and, you know, them at, you know, like 110 miles an hour, they never gave us a second look because we weren't doing anything illegal.
The Autobahn turns the basic premise that speed kills on its head. Weird and counterintuitive as it seems, driving without limits, at least as it's practiced in Germany, is as safe and possibly safer than the more conservative approach favored by the rest of the world.
I think generally the average American looks at the Autobahn as, Germany's way of population control. And ultimately, if you look at it statistically, it's very safe to drive on the Autobahn, and especially the last 10, 15 years, it's scored consistently a lower death rate than our American interstate.
But how is this possible? One can't help but think on the face of it that a freeway on which people can go 212 would be incredibly dangerous. Not so. In exchange for the right to fly, Autobahn drivers have to sacrifice other freedoms.
The Germans permit much higher speeds, but force much more rigid controls in how you behave on the highways in terms of lane discipline. Here, you can meander all over all the lanes wherever you want to go, provided you drive within the posted limits.
They have a law that they call it's Rechtsfahren, drive right. You can only drive in the right-hand lane and pass in the left. And that's the law. If you pass on the right, you can be pulled over and given a ticket. And so everybody rigidly observes this. So the slower traffic is always to the right, and there's never a left lane bandit or a slowpoke sitting in the left lane blocking traffic.
Autobahn drivers don't just drive right. They drive with a distinctive concentration and focus, one that 100+ miles an hour has a way of quickly inducing. There is no multitasking on the Autobahn, no talking on the cell phone, no eating on the run.
German companies never understood why we needed cup holders, because driving is an activity in itself. One takes pride and has to put full concentration into it. It's not something you do while slurping on a 7-Up, as we Americans do. I mean, that whole idea of the cup holder, in a way, illustrates the difference between the way the automobile in the United States is wrapped into the very fabric of everyday life, eating and drinking, whereas it's an important part of German life, but it is pursued almost for its own sake.
Another factor that makes the Autobahn safe at any speed is the road itself. The Autobahn is more than twice as thick as the American interstate, 27 inches of asphalt and concrete, which prevents cracking. And maintenance is extraordinary. When a crack does appear, the entire section of road is quickly replaced, which is why maintenance slowdowns are a frequent occurrence. As a rule, the Autobahn is incredibly smooth.
You can't have potholes on a road where you can drive 120 or faster.
Structural features also make a difference, especially the double-sided crash guardrails that separate opposing lines of traffic and prevent head-on collisions. Most of the American interstate has a weaker single barrier, or none at all. And it's much harder to get a driver's license here. Individual driver's training is mandatory. And the license itself, which you have to be 18 to get, costs between $1,500 and $2,000. A key feature of the Autobahn safety net, of course, is the quality of German cars. Cars designed from the 1930s on, with the Autobahn in mind. Cars that can go incredibly fast, but that are also beautifully maneuverable at extreme speeds. And as this footage shot by the German Highway Patrol illustrates, cars that can save a life at any speed.
I would credit the unlimited speed limits of the German Autobahns of not only creating very highly engineered and effective automobiles, but very safe automobiles. The suspensions, the gearboxes, the brakes, the steering, the lights, the structure of these cars became the best in the world in many ways because they were tested in the crucible of high-speed running on the German Autobahn.
That environment is increasingly threatened. At one time, there wasn't a single speed sign on the Autobahn. Now, with urban sprawl and 50 million German trucks and cars, nearly half of the Autobahn is heavily signed. But outside the major cities, the Autobahn still affords plenty of opportunities for ordinary drivers to open up and experience a freedom of the road that the rest of the world can only fantasize about.
100, 110 miles an hour is perfectly easy to do and very, very comfortable, and I